Listen, if you have medical debt that is outstanding and is negatively impacting your credit score, I want you to listen very closely because there is some new updates that's coming from the White House where they are taking an initiative to lower and lessen the burden of medical debts on credit reports. So if you're ready to get into this juice, let's go.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone.
Hi, everyone. It's Sophia Melonē, the Debt Demolisher, here to bring you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you manage your financial baggage the right way. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the impacts of medical debt on your credit report. I know that there are many of you that may have outstanding medical debts and you have no idea how to tackle them. You've tried dispute letters, you've tried to take action, you've tried to pay off the collections, but it's still on your credit report and creating negative impacts on your score. And you may be wondering, how are some other ways that I can get this resolved? So in today's episode, I want to share with you what are some things that's actually happening in the administrative side of things in the economy that we live in, of course. So the White House is taking some action to help with lessening the burden of the impact as a result of medical debts being reported on credit reports. If you did not know that there is 88 billion outstanding medical bills right now that are being faced across, I don't know how many households in the United States, but 88 billion outstanding medical debt. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of debt. And that's a lot of collection activity. And $88 billion worth of medical debt is somehow, in some way, shape, or form, negatively impacting and affecting credit reports of families and households just like yourself. So if you fall into this window, I want you to first understand that there is no shame. We know that medical debts are astronomical. If it were not for insurance, if it were not for coverage, I can tell you right now, I would probably still have a whole lot of medical debt in and of itself. So we want to make sure that we are releasing any guilt that's attached to the burden, or release any guilt that's attached to the amount of debt that we've incurred, because we can't help if we have a health crisis. We can't help if we have to go to a doctor for something. We can't help that. And we can't help the charges that have been incurred as a result of it, because primarily our bodies needs care in order to be nurtured, in order for us to continue to live and effectively take care of our minds and our bodies to be able to work and make this money and pay taxes. Am I right or am I wrong? So when we look at your medical situation, when it comes to your medical history and the amount of debt that you're in as a result of that, I want you to understand that there is no need to be ashamed. There is no need to be in fear, and there is no need to be upset, because there just might be some help on the way for you. So what I want to do is pull up an actual White House letter by the Biden-Harris administration that is letting people know what actions they're trying to take in terms of reducing that burden that I was telling you guys about, that medical debt has on everyday households today, because we know that there's negative impacts on our credit report as a result of collection activity. And if 9 times out of 10 that collection activity is related to medical debt, something that we really can't control if we're just trying to sustain our life, I think it's a great cause that the administration is trying to do something to help with releasing that burden. So let's go ahead on, and I'm gonna pull up the screen and I'm gonna pull up the letter so that way we can read it together. So let's get into this work, and I'm gonna break this on down. Here we go. So this fact sheet actually came from the White House briefing room. And what the Biden administration is announcing is that there are some actions that they're taking to lessen the burden of medical debt and also increase consumer protection at the same time. So Vice President Kamala Harris to announce reforms across 4 areas to ease the burden of medical debt, giving more American families the opportunity to thrive. Amen, amen, and amen. So today, as a part of the fight to help Americans deal with high costs, the Biden-Harris administration is announcing a new action to protect consumers and lessen the burden of medical debt on American families. Together, these actions will help hold medical providers and debt collectors accountable for harmful practices, to reduce the role that medical debt plays in determining whether Americans can access credit, which will open up new opportunities for people with medical debt to buy a home or get a small business loan. Help over 500,000 of low-income American veterans get their medical debt forgiven. Come on to the veterans. Also inform consumers of their rights. Furthermore, inside of the White House briefing letter, this letter indicates that 1 in 3 adults in the United States have medical debt. It is now the largest source of debt in collections. So medical debt is the largest source of debt in collections, more than credit cards, more than utilities, and more than auto loans combined. Black and Hispanic households are more likely to hold medical debt than white households. Come on and speak this truth. Medical debt is not just a financial issue. It can have negative health effects too. One study found that almost half of individuals with medical debt intentionally avoided seeking care. Getting sick or taking care of loved ones should not mean financial hardship for American families. That is why the administration is taking new action to ease the burden of medical debt and protect consumers from predatory collection policies. These actions to build upon the president's April 5th executive order on strengthening access to affordable, quality health care coverage, which directed federal agencies to take action to reduce the burden of medical debt. Today, Vice President Harris, and this was actually released on April the 11th. So Vice President Harris is announcing reforms in 4 areas that will lessen the burden of medical debt, protect consumers, and open up new opportunities for Americans looking to buy a home or start a small business. First one, holding providers accountable and holding collectors accountable as well. When families cannot afford to pay the cost of care, often because they are uninsured or underinsured, providers have a responsibility to offer non-predatory payment plans or financial assistance in all eligible patients. Let's go back and let me clarify what non-predatory payment plans mean. So non-predatory payment plans essentially means that it is not astronomical. It is not preying on those who can't afford it. Predatory lending is those who seek out to basically lend or put people on payment plans that'll have them paying 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 times, sometimes 20 times the amount that they've actually owed in the first place, assessing all of these interests, assessing all of these different fees. But when it comes to payment plans, it cannot be predatory, meaning you're going to put them in a space of hardship where they can't even meet the payment plan. And then when they break the payment plan, then you go into the space of putting them into collections. That is what non-predatory payment plans represent, meaning it cannot be disadvantaged. It cannot be totally like unrealistic. It has to be in a form where both parties will fully be able to agree and understand the pros and the cons of that agreement that they're taking on. While many do, far too many eligible patients report not receiving help. Worse, lawsuits against patients over medical bills are on the rise. And when hospitals sell outstanding bills to third-party debt collectors, patients can be subjected to persistent and aggressive collection practices. The federal government pays roughly $1.5 trillion a year into the healthcare system to provide patients with quality care and service. Providers receiving that funding should make it easy for eligible patients to receive the financial assistance they are entitled to, and should not directly or indirectly subject patients to illegal or harassing debt collection practices. Secretary Bhattacharya is directing the Department of Health and Human Services to evaluate how providers' billing practices impact and affordability of care and the accrual of medical debt. HHS will request data from more than 2,000 providers on medical bill collection practices. So if you get something in the mail, I'm gonna need you to respond. Your voice need to be heard because they're trying to make some changes up in here. And if you are not willing to respond to these letters that you get or these surveys that you get, the data that they're asking you for is for a reason, so that changes can be put into place for your betterment. So if you get something, I need you to make sure that you respond. Now back to me continuing reading. Lawsuits against patients, financial assistance, financial product offerings, and third-party contracting or debt buying practices. The department will, for the first time, weigh this information in their grant-making decisions, publish top-line data and policy recommendations for the public, and share potential violations with the relevant enforcement agencies of the jurisdiction. Again, this is your opportunity to allow your voice to be heard. So if you receive something in the mail and you get something back where they're requesting data from you, don't be afraid to provide that data, especially if you know that you fall in one of these buckets where you get an outstanding or you get an astronomical medical bill that you don't have the means to be able to pay. You can allow yourself to allow your experience to be heard. If you were harassed by collections agencies, if you were harassed, maybe even by some of not being able to get the financial support and the help that you needed from the hospital that you had to go to, or from the medical care provider that you had to go through, make sure that your voice is heard. This is your chance. This is your chance. This is your chance. Separately, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is the CFPB, will investigate credit reporting companies and debt collectors that violate patients and family rights and hold violators accountable. The CFPB has already issued a bulletin to prevent unlawful medical debt collection and reporting. The CFPB will target coercive credit reporting and determine whether unpaid medical billing data should ever be included in credit reports. This is the piece that I want you guys to realize. Once the CFPB gets into this thing and they get to hounding and getting on top of our top 3 credit reporting agencies, and they course correct all of this, all of these aggressive collection efforts that they've been putting on, just selling stuff off and putting it on collections to show that negative reports on people's credit reports. Once the CFP gets involved and they get on top of these credit bureaus, you better believe there are going to be some changes with the way that your medical debts are being reported on your credit report for collection purposes. So again, make sure if you do not have access to your credit report, make sure that you request copies of your credit report. Also, I am doing my next credit improvement strategies workshop. The next session is going to be linked down in the description box of this video. So go down to the description box, click on the link where it says credit workshop. Make sure that you go ahead and check it out. You can read through everything that's going to be offered inside of the live workshop. You'll also be able to see what the registration cost is and what the fee is. It's relatively low, but I want you in the room, especially if you know that you have medical collections, or if you know that you have something, or you may even be afraid to look at your credit report. You're going to come into this workshop with me and we are going to look at this thing together. So make sure that you check the description box and register and check out the details for the credit improvement workshop. Next, they're going to work on improving the government underwriting practices. The latest research finds that owing medical debt is not a reliable predictor of overall financial health. An analysis of 5 million anonymized credit records found that consumers who owed medical debt paid their bills on time at the same rate as those who did not. In fact, including paid off medical debt causes credit scores to underestimate creditworthiness by as much as 22 points. As a result, the inclusion of medical debt on credit reports and in credit scores and loan underwriting can hold Americans back from financial opportunities while failing to improve the accuracy of predictiveness of lending programs. The private sector has taken important steps to address this problem. Last month, the three largest credit reporting agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, announced that they will no longer include certain forms of medical debt on credit reports, removing billions of dollars in debt from consumer reports. This change covers borrowers with already paid debts, unpaid debts less than a year old, and debts paid or unpaid under $500. Listen to this. This is a letter from the White House. Listen to this. However, this change leaves out a third of Americans with medical debt over $500. For example, 11 million Americans have medical debt above $2,000 and 3 million Americans have debt over $10,000. Further action is indeed, or is necessary, it's needed to help families struggling with medical debt. The Biden-Harris administration is committed to leading the way. The federal government is one of the largest actors in consumer credit markets, directly providing tens of billions of loans annually to millions of Americans and guaranteeing or holding up to 70% of all mortgages. Government action matters. Americans with medical debt can apply for an FHA-backed mortgage without fear that medical debt will keep them from being able to buy a home. FHA, which backs over 12% of new home purchases in America, has eliminated medical debt from consideration when evaluating a borrower's credit worthiness. That's why the administration is announcing actions that go beyond recent private sector announcements. More, let's continue on with reading. The Biden administration is providing guidance to all agencies to eliminate medical debt as a factor for underwriting and credit programs whenever possible and consistent with law. Medical debt is not a reliable indicator of credit quality, and its impact should be reduced or eliminated to give more American families the opportunity to thrive. Americans with medical debt can apply for USDA Rural Housing Service loans without fear that their medical debt could keep them from getting a mortgage. USDA announced that it will discontinue the inclusion of any recurring medical debts into borrowing repayment calculations, which measures a borrower's ability to repay for its home ownership programs, which is over $20 billion in lending activity. The Department of Veteran Affairs has taken multiple steps to ensure credit reporting and underwriting regarding medical debt, including finalizing a rule to virtually cease reporting of medical debt for veterans with bills from VA Care. VA, which is the Department of Veteran Affairs, will also review its underwriting guidelines to ensure that the government minimizes or eliminate medical debt reporting as a proxy for creditworthiness wherever possible. The Small Business Administration has demonstrated a commitment to ensuring credit access and a vested interest in accurate credit reporting and underwriting. To further this commitment, SBA will work with its colleagues and partners to lessen the financial burden of medical debt for families and to review SBA lending programs to identify what ways to reduce the negative impact of medical debt on small business access to capital. Come on. FHFA is reviewing the credit models that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac use and looking at ways to ensure measures of creditworthiness are accurate, reliable, and predicative. To reinforce the measures, the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, will be issuing new guidelines to agencies whenever possible and consistent with law, eliminate debt as a factor for underwriting and credit programs or reduce its impact. So there's also going to be support for veterans in financial hardship. So since the start of the pandemic, Veteran Affairs has canceled or refunded approximately $1 billion in co-payments to over 1.5 million veterans. The American Rescue Plan eliminated all out-of-pocket medical expenses for veterans enrolled in VA healthcare and provided much needed financial relief to veterans experiencing economic hardship during the COVID-19 pandemic. Veteran Affairs will now make it easier and faster for lower income veterans to get their VA medical debt forgiven. Currently, veterans in financial hardship who need medical debt relief from VA must fill out a complex paper form with complicated eligibility requirements. The application process is confusing, time-consuming, and as a result, veterans may be deterred from applying for much needed relief. To address these problems and ensure that veterans get the relief they deserve, VA will streamline the request process, including offering an online option to apply and set a simple income threshold to qualify for relief. VA has also published a final rule on their website under which it will virtually cease reporting unfavorable debt, including medical debt, to consumer reporting agencies. The new rule ensures that debt reported better reflects creditworthiness while saving veterans from further financial struggles simply because they had to take on medical debt. Another piece, they want people to really understand as a consumer what their rights are. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau will ramp up its consumer education tools aimed at helping American families navigate the complex and often confusing medical billing landscape, including more materials specifically designed to help patients access the financial assistance they are entitled to. The CFPB has a wide range of tools available to help patients and their families confronting medical bills and collections, particularly problems relating to debt collections and credit reporting. At consumerfinance.gov. People experiencing aggressive debt collection, coercive credit reporting, and other problems with a consumer financial product or service related to medical billing and collections can submit a complaint to the CFPB at consumerfinance.gov/complaint. So I literally read through the entire fact sheet that was issued by the White House briefing room as a result of the Biden-Harris administration. Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot that was covered, but I hope you all had an opportunity to really pick up the gems that were inside of there. And one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to do an extension, a part 2 to this video that's going to walk us through the medical tools and the medical resources that are available on the CFPB's website. The CFPB website is a very, very powerful website. There are a lot of tools, there are a lot of resources there, but I know it could be a lot to navigate. So one of the things that I want to do, one of the things that I love to do is I like to help facilitate learning. And because I want to help facilitate learning, I want to walk you through the resources that are available on CFPB's website as it relates to medical debts and medical collections and the treatment of it and how it impacts you as a finance consumer and as a taxpayer in this economy and inside of this nation. So you all have some work to do. And we're going to come back for part 2 to continue on our conversation to really walk through what other resources and tools are available as it relates to how to manage and handle and face and deal with the medical related collections that are on our credit reports. And if you don't know what's on your credit report, I need you to request your credit report. You can get it for free. Since the pandemic, you can get it for free every single week. I've walked through this on the website. I've walked through this already on the channel. I have several episodes sharing with you all how to get your access to your reports, how to do that. Find the video. It's there. I want you to look at it and I want you to look for it and I want you to pull your credit report. And then once you pull your credit report, I want you to register for my credit improvement workshop, the next one that's coming up. All right. So I look forward to seeing you in the room for the workshop. And I also look forward to seeing you in part 2 of this video related to medical debt collections and how it impacts your credit. So you already know what I'm gonna tell you to do. Remember, your financial prosperity awaits you, and so does your financial sanity. You already know what I'm gonna tell you to do, and that's what? Get to work. All right, bye.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia